Welcome to Stories Without Borders, the podcast. I'm your host, Holland. Here we interview people who use the power of stories in service to promote connection, empathy, and understanding around the world. You can learn more online at storieswithoutborders.org or follow us on Instagram and YouTube at stories_without-borders. Thanks for listening. Here's today's episode. Today, we are speaking with New York Times bestselling author, producer, and tech leader Abigail Hing Wen. Abigail wrote the New York Times and national bestselling trilogy Loveboat Taipei, Loveboat Reunion, and Loveboat Forever. She executive produced the Paramount Plus original film Love in Taipei, an adaptation of Loveboat Taipei that stars Ashley Liao from the Hunger Games franchise and Ross Butler from Shazam. Her fourth novel, Kisses, Codes, and Conspiracies, is a national bestseller and Amazon editor's pick for Best YA Book of the Month. Her upcoming fifth novel is The Vale, and she is writing and directing a short film titled The Vale Origins that is a prequel to the book. Thank you so much for coming onto the podcast, Abigail.
Thank you so much for having me, Holland. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Oh my gosh, I've been a fan of your work for such a long time. I've read all of your books. You're such a powerful writer. I'm just so happy to have you on this podcast.
Oh, thank you for reading.
Of course. I'd love to start off with some biographical info to introduce you to our audience. I've heard you speak about your inspiring journey from growing up as a young bibliophile in Ohio and eventually becoming a New York Times bestselling author. And I'd love for you to share an overview of that journey.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for doing all the research too.
Yeah, of course.
So I did grow up in Ohio. I was one of the few Asian Americans in my school and my community. And so I think I was always very conscious of being different, but not knowing why. I didn't understand why I was different. I didn't understand why the life that I knew in the home was so different than the life outside and so different from all my peers around me. And so I did find a lot of my friends in books. And I think through books, I was able to experience lots of different worlds and cultures. And I found myself gravitating towards fantasy stories. In particular, I think in retrospect, because I could see myself in those worlds. Like usually it's about the hero goes into another world and explores a new culture.
So it's like going into a portal through the book.
Mm-hmm, very much so. And so I think that Loveboat Taipei, even though it's technically contemporary, I think of it as a fantasy too. It's like a girl goes into another world, which is the world of Taipei, and meets a bunch of people, experiences this new transformative culture, learns all the rules and how to break them, and then comes home a different person.
Yeah, because Ever comes to Loveboat as this good girl, straight A, very shy. And then she comes back and she's a dancer and she's found herself at Loveboat. And is that sort of your experience?
Yeah, so I did go on this real program. So it's a real program that's been around since the 1960s. And parents of overseas Asian Americans, they would send their kids there to learn language and culture, also to find a spouse. So that's how it got its nickname, Loveboat. And I did go on the program. I was I think I just finished my freshman year at Harvard. And so I went with a couple other presidential scholars. We were all given the trip for free from the government. And I had no idea what to expect. I thought it was like literally just a language and cultural program. And then lo and behold, it turns out to be this summer free-for-all where the kids are sneaking out clubbing and drinking snake blood sake and doing all kinds of things. Lots of hooking up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I think it was an eye-opening experience for me. And also going to Harvard and similar programs and then going on Loveboat was the first time for me that I met so many Asian Americans who were really proud of their culture and their identity. And they knew all these things that I didn't know. Again, it was like, being in Ohio again, except in reverse. They knew about like the food in Taipei and the history and the music. And it was really refreshing for me. And I think that experience was just with me for so long as I was writing. Yeah. I was on my writing journey, writing all these other novels. And then I think I finally came to the point where I was ready from a craft perspective to tackle such a big story. And I also felt like it was a portrayal of Asian Americans that we weren't seeing in mainstream media and stories.
Yeah. Have you gone to Taipei or Taiwan before this cultural exchange program?
I went when I was 12 with my family. It was actually, we were supposed to go to China, but then there was a Tiananmen Square incident. And so then we shifted to Taipei and then I ended up having this fun time there. But I didn't go again until Loveboat. But since then I've been there three more times to research book 1, 2, and 3, as well as to film the movie.
Right. Well, let's dive into Loveboat. So you said the inspiration of the book was like your experience. What was some of like the key moments at Loveboat that kind of drove the book?
Well, I remember we were treated really amazingly well. I think when I look back on it, I'm like, oh, I don't know that we deserved that treatment, especially because we were just sneaking out clubbing. But they really wanted to roll out the red carpet for us and show us a good time around Taipei. I think they really wanted us to be able to connect with our heritage and the culture. And so we would take these bus rides throughout the city on our excursions. We'd go to the museums. A lot of these appear in the story. We did this tour around the island, which is amazing because the island itself is beautiful.
Right.
But I do remember one time we stopped the bus and someone got off to visit his family and came back with like all this food. And so I was really struck by that because I didn't have family there. But I was like, I felt like, wow, he had this like inside view of the culture that I was like, I think in some ways envious of. And so in some ways writing Loveboat Taipei and having that opportunity for my characters to go visit their families was me like just peeking into that world and looking under the hood.
Because you don't have family in Taipei, or do you?
I have sometimes on and off.
On and off.
Yeah, it's like they move around. So I have visited a cousin there, but she's no longer there.
Can you explain how the Loveboat trilogy breaks down stereotypes? Because I know that the lack of diversity of API characters in books is like a massive problem that you have addressed multiple times. So I'd love to know how you used Loveboat to break down the stereotype.
So when I was growing up, there were just very few stories with Asian Americans in general. And a lot of the portrayal in media was like the stereotypical father taking photos, like which I think is probably tourists. Like they just assume like, oh, if you're Asian, you're a tourist. And then there were the sidekick, nerdy characters. And then there was like the dragon woman, or kind of like the Susie Wong types. And that's really all we had. And they were often pretty flat characters. They didn't have depth to them and they were expendable. And so I think with the Loveboat Taipei books, the first goal really was to humanize the Asian American characters.
Yeah.
And that's partly what we have this like Loveboat series where they really are just human. They are kids. They make foolish decisions as well as smart ones. They fall in love. They break up. They get back on their feet after like hard times. They make mistakes. And I think that humanization and showing that well-roundedness of the characters, allowing them to really be a 360 was important to me.
Yeah, because the three main characters, Ever, Sophie, and Pearl, they're so complex and fleshed out. Like I could almost imagine them somewhere around the world, just like, drinking boba or designing their next clothing item. Like who or what was your inspiration for each of these characters?
So I do say that Ever's journey is mine, even though, and I did dance, like I did a lot of ballet grant for 12 years. I did a lot of music, but I never thought it could be something I could pursue. I didn't know I could pursue the arts. And so her choice of like, should she go to med school or should she pursue being a dancer, in some ways is my choice between doing like more the traditional corporate path or becoming a writer. But I say that she got to choose earlier because she, she figured it out sooner. But yeah, I think that navigating, like, what does it mean to honor your parents while still pursuing your passions and being yourself was definitely a big part of my journey. And there was a moment when I felt like I was going to let my parents down in terms of what they wanted from me. They actually wanted me to go into public service and work in the government. And I was working in Washington, D.C. on Capitol Hill and just felt like, wow, this is like, this is not the world for me. Like I can't, there's like these young people with too much power and no sense of the world, no lived experience. And it just felt very empty. And so there was a moment I called my dad and I said, I'm going to let everyone at home down. Like they're like, oh, you went to Harvard, you're going to do all these great things for our community. And I just like, I can't do all that. And it was a hard moment for me. And I remember crying and my dad was like, it's okay. And that was actually really important for me to hear that from him. Yeah. It's okay. And I think sometimes as young people, we can put a lot of pressures on ourselves that aren't actually there. And that's part of the journey of Ever and her parents. Like they love each other so much, but they don't have the language or the understanding to fully connect until later.
That's such an inspiring and powerful story. The fact that you see so much of yourself in Ever and like you were able to communicate that through the paper so well. That's so inspiring. I also want to congratulate you on your movie, Love in Taipei. I hate to change the subject, but can you explain how it was like to have it turn into a movie and also like the process of being the executive producer?
Yeah, well, it was really incredible to see the words on the page turn into this like beautiful, these beautiful images on the screen. And, I think a writer's life can be very solitary. It's just you and the page and then your editor and agent. It's a small team. You have more control over the story, but I enjoy having people around. And so that's the fun, I think, of doing a movie is there's 300 people by the end. And I, what I often say, because I mentioned, we were chatting in the green room, is the movie is quite different than the film or than the books. And I think, part of it is like you're ceding creative control to 300 people. And in some ways, no one has control over the final product because everyone brings their own sensibilities to it. I am grateful that, we were able to film it at the height of pandemic in Taipei and So there were, just a small number of us that came over from North America. And, we were on the ground doing our thing together. And that was really magical to be on set together.
It's awesome. Your fourth novel, Kisses, Codes, and Conspiracies, it's based on your short story, The Idiom Algorithm. It's quite different from the Loveboat series. It's set in Silicon Valley, which is basically like the global headquarters of the tech industry. And you worked in that field for a really long time. Did that in any way help develop the story?
Yeah, absolutely. The best advice is to write what you know. And initially that actually kept me from writing because I didn't realize that you wrote what you knew. I have thought of books as things that I didn't know about. But when you write your own one, it's things that you're an expert in, which is often things in your own life. So the Loveboat Taipei books were about an experience I'd had 20 years prior. And then I've been in Silicon Valley now for about, 16 years or so. And so it was kind of the right time for me to also start to reflect on this place that is so unique. I think, there's so much happening with the tech revolution that's really impacted the whole world. Yeah. Artificial intelligence is in all our lives, and it's here to stay. And so I felt like things like that, they're so unique to the Valley. And I did want to capture that, but also capture, again, these Asian Americans that happen to live in Silicon Valley, and I wasn't seeing reflected in the shows that did come out. So for this one, there's nothing particularly cultural about it. It's Tan Lee Winterwu, whose mother and her rent out the back rooms of his home in Palo Alto, and then his ex-girlfriend from Shanghai. Oh, yeah. They end up on the run from a bunch of international thugs that are chasing them for these cryptocurrencies that have come into their possession through Rebecca. And, definitely cryptocurrencies is something I had looked at 10 years ago when people were still excited about now Bitcoin mining and all that. Yeah. And it worked for the story because it was the Rebecca's father's stash, his money stash, and which is why cryptocurrencies are illegal in parts of the world. It's a way to hide from governments. And, wow. I just thought it was kind of the story of the inheritance money or the money that's hidden under the mattress, but in a totally different form, a modernized form.
That's so cool. And I love how this book is so action-packed. When I was reading it, I was like, oh, this could totally be a Marvel movie. What was the experience you had writing in this genre? Because it's not realistic fiction or contemporary or fantasy.
Yeah. So my team describes it as a young adult thriller or a thrill-mantic because it's a thriller plus rom-com, romantic comedy. I actually have always just written stories like this. I just didn't publish them. As a kid, I told stories to my brother and sister of adventures of us in the world without adults. And there was usually a thriller element or dystopian or fantasy. And I wrote 4 novels on the way to Loveboat Taipei that I had to bury. And my second one actually was a young adult thriller set in Asia. And that one, for various reasons, I didn't end up publishing. But so I think in some ways this is just more of me. I just happen to have a lot of different types of stories in me.
Are you an older sibling?
I am, yeah.
Me too. I had to tell stories to my little brother.
There you go, yeah.
So I want to talk about Tan a little bit, the male protagonist and the main character. Your previous stories, they all have female main characters. And so was that any different than, I'm sure it's different, but how was that different than writing through ever?
For sure. It was definitely a different challenge. Book 2, as you know, Loveboat Reunion is dual point of view with Xavier and Sophie. And so that was hard too, especially because Xavier is so different from me. Yeah. Where Xavier and I are similar is in his neurodiversity. And so then that was a point of connection. And also he's a visual thinker and a filmmaker. But Tan was hard. But this one, for some reason, just came out that way. I have, with the second Loveboat, my editor and my team basically advised they did want a female protagonist because that was consistent with what I'd done with book 1. But with this one, my editor just kind of let me do it. And the funny thing is, when I think about my forthcoming books, they all have male protagonists too. Huh. Yeah. I think I just write what feels right for that particular book. And Tan, my point of connection to him is something I didn't realize until later, but he has imposter syndrome. Growing up in Silicon Valley, surrounded by all these amazing kids, and then having parents who are industry leaders in cryptography, he doesn't realize how good he is and how well he's been trained. But he also has natural giftings, and he kind of has to go on this entire international heist journey to realize how good he is, and to get off his butt and apply for the internship that he was too scared to apply for.
And when Sana her, and there's multiple instances where Sana is put in danger.
His younger sister.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like he just beats himself up for it. And I'm like, no, Tan, stop it. I can totally see the imposter syndrome because he thinks he thought he was such a horrible brother to Sana. And I guess in a way, if you think about it, he could be, but he feels like a friendly giant to me.
yeah. He's got his own fumbles, and I think that was a big key learning for him too. Is no matter how much he screwed up, his sister just loves him, and that's all she wants. It's just for him to like be there with her.
She might get a little mad if she doesn't go to Barnes & Noble.
And like the delay in her cookies.
You don't want to get in the way of little siblings and their sugar.
Absolutely. But I think he also learns, he learns what he's capable of doing and how much he'll do to protect the ones that he loves. And that's a really important learning for him too.
Your 5th novel, The Vale, is coming out soon, which is super exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you're also directing a short film related to the book, which is also super exciting. Yay. Can you tell us briefly a little bit about the book?
Yeah, absolutely. So at the time we're doing this podcast, and I know it's going to be released a little later, I am actually about to film. We're going to go to set in 2 days. So super excited. But we have an amazing cast. So Lea Salonga, who was my childhood hero growing up, she was the voice of Mulan, Jasmine, and played Miss Saigon on Broadway, as well as Eponine and Les Miserables. So really just my childhood hero. So she agreed to play our lead, Addie, who's the mom. The story is about the Lee family. They're an inventor family living in Silicon Valley that created this virtual reality world powered by artificial intelligence, or it's an AI-generated virtual reality world.
Wow.
And in the novel that's coming out, it's a middle grade novel. The main character, Bran, is 13 years old, and he has lived too long in this virtual reality world that his neurodiverse parents have created. He just wants this world to become real. And the real world for him is hard because his parents have fallen on hard times. All of their inventions have failed, even though he believes that they're brilliant. Especially
because of this AI.
He's got this veil, but he really just wishes his elves in this world would come to life. And he seems to like have these opportunities, like there are opportunities for him to submit this veil into a competition. And so that's kind of like the backbone of the story. But as he's entering in these competitions, which are the hope for his family as well as for the veil, things start to break down in that world. And so that's kind of his challenge. Like, can he figure out what's going on before both his worlds are destroyed? So it's such a strange and bizarre book. It was actually my 4th novel on the way to Loveboat Taipei. I wrote it as my creative thesis for Vermont College of Fine Arts.
Oh, cool.
And it never saw the light of day because it's like my rep at the time said that, they just didn't know what it was. It was like this weird book that I wrote in 2015 about artificial intelligence generation. And nobody understood what it was. And so now the world is finally caught up and I can finally publish it. Because it's such a weird book, it goes back and forth between the real world and the virtual reality world, the two storylines that eventually converge. I really wanted to show what that could look like on the screen because I felt like it was probably hard to grok. And so my short film has like 3 different purposes. One is that it's a proof of concept because it does cut between the real world and an animated world. And that's been so much fun to work with the team on because we have like on our calls, we'll have like the animator and the post-production producer and, the art director, right? And so just like everyone working together to like bring about a cohesive piece. So it's a proof of concept for what a feature-length film could look like.
Wow.
It's my directorial debut, which has been so much fun.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yay. Yeah, we really have a wonderful cast and crew. And it supports the book launch. So, books in general are just so hard to get word out on.
Yeah.
And so I'm thrilled to have like this asset coming in to like really help get the word out and also further our goals of diverse stories. Like, again, this is a story where the family happens to be diverse, but the story itself is a universal one.
What's your favorite and least favorite part of the writing process?
Yeah. So I love all of it in different ways.
Yeah.
There is something really satisfying about finishing, but you get there so rarely. It just, I've only been there 5 times now. But the idea generation is something that just happens all day long for me. Like wherever I go, I get ideas. And so then I'll just like slot them into a note file on my phone. And then when I have a moment to sit down and kind of go through all those ideas, and I figure out like what to do with them. So that's fun to see like kind of the chaos slowly take shape and form into something. But I think I do love it most when I have a first draft that I can actually finally start to massage. Because when it's amorphous and I'm not sure, and like I know the emotional heart of it, but I don't know like what's happening, or like then it's like this unwieldy thing. But that is also part of the fun.
Yeah, it is part of the fun. But I do have to say, sometimes when you get to that part, it's like, I want to burn this thing to the ground and never look back.
Totally, because you're also a writer, right? Yeah. How's your process? What's your favorite part?
Well, I mean, I tried writing a novel and that did not work at all.
It takes a long time.
It takes a long time. I've mostly been sticking with shorter formatting, like poems. I've written a lot of poems. And I actually do have like a short, I don't know how to describe it. It's like a short horror, thriller, psychological short story that's like about body image and stuff, which is very much still being revised. What was the most difficult character for you to write and why?
Oh, I think it might actually be Pearl.
Really?
The star of book 3, because she's a younger sibling. And as we just talked about, we're both older. And so I had these like perspectives on the younger sibling, like, the older one paves the way with the parents.
Yeah.
So it was fun. It was a fun challenge to put myself in her shoes. And I helped myself out of it by having her be quite a bit younger than ever. And then I found that I actually really enjoyed how she could interact with the Wong family in a different way than her big sister. So Ever had a very fraught relationship with her parents, as you know. And even I think at the time of book 3, which takes place 6 years later, it's never a perfect relationship. But Pearl, like as it turned out, had a good relationship with her mother because of all this time they spent together driving around to all her music events. And then having her older sister pave the way helped for sure. And so I enjoyed the fact that Pearl was close to their mother, so that in some ways we could humanize the mom too, and show like, what her hopes were. And like those moments, I actually love those little moments when Pearl would be like, you should take a photo too. Like you should get a glamour shot too. Even though like her mom's like, no, I'm too old. And just like the ways that Pearl could care for her mother, and Pearl having her mother and sister come out to join her on Loveboat. Like, I just felt like for me, it was an opportunity to bring the whole family full circle. And I think it's because I had to do all that work of digging into who Pearl was and why she was different than ever, that we got to like bring all these things about.
And if you really think about it, it's almost like you get two different perspectives of what Ever and Pearl's mom is like, because in Ever's book, you get mean tiger mom, but then in Pearl's book, you get this sort of nurture and kind, thoughtful person. And so it was really nice to have like those two different sides, because then that makes the mom really fleshed out as well.
Yeah, I'm glad I had that opportunity, because I think the dad had his own journey in book 1.
Yeah, definitely.
So he came around, but yeah, I'm really glad I had that time.
Yeah. Who are some of your role models and influences as a writer?
Ooh, good question. So I always talk about my critique partners who were there at the beginning, and we met in various ways. Like I met Eileen Wong, who's her pen name is I.W. Gregorio. We met at an SCBWI conference, and she was a resident at Stanford Medical School trying to write YA novels. And I was like a young attorney trying to write YA novels. And so it was a good match. And we started trading works, and other people joined us, like Sonia Mukherjee, who's also published a young adult book, Gemini. And I met Sabaa Tahir, who's actually the first Pakistani American to win the National Book Award for Young People's Literature. Wow. And Stacey Lee, who writes historical Asian American stories, Kelly Lloyd Gilbert's, similar historical and contemporary Asian American stories. And I just learned so much from them. And in my low points in my writing career, when my Loveboat was rejected and I just didn't know what else to do, they were the ones who encouraged me, came around me and kept me going, and had such invaluable advice. And so I really admire all their works.
That's awesome. And what do you hope your audience takes away from your own work?
Well, I think we talked a little about the humanizing of the characters, but really like the big themes that matter to me, I think, are this family dynamics, the complexity of those family dynamics. Identity was a theme in Loveboat. Believing in yourself and being empowered is a theme, I think, in Kisses, Codes, and Conspiracies. I think of myself as a bridge builder. And I'm trying to build bridges across many different communities. And I think the fact that I grew up in Ohio as an Asian American, I thought a lot about how to bridge that gap growing up. And so that's reflected in these books. But I also think about how do I bridge the technology world with the people who are afraid of technology. Right. And that's something I did as part of my career. Implicit bias is something that I really faced as a woman in tech. And so I think about how do I bridge that world to people who've never experienced it? And like, what does it mean when your ideas are just not considered? Like, I think Taylor Swift is really the master of it with her her song, The Man, right? It just completely captured it. But, explaining those experiences and then with gender and sexuality, like there's still such a big gap. And I think for me, having grown up in Ohio, which is a more conservative community, And now living here in Silicon Valley, I do have like the vocabulary and the language to see where people are really missing each other on a lot of these issues.
Yeah.
And so like my hope is to be able to speak across these divides and to bring people together.
That's awesome. And I certainly took a lot of that, if not all of that, away from all of your work. So why don't we do some fun lightning round questions? So I'll ask a quick question. You give a quick answer.
Oh, fun. Yeah. Can you give a quick answer too to the questions?
Sure.
I'd love to hear yours.
All right. Ready, set, go. Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Cats.
You're a cat person. I don't know if we can do this interview anymore.
Oh my, wow. I mean, I'm allergic
totally
to
kidding.
cats. Like I die when I'm around cats, but they are the most adorable things ever.
Yeah, no. Actually, I have dear friends who are cat people, and we actually have a half feral cat in our yard. So we're good.
What about your favorite movie?
Favorite movie? That's a hard one, but I do love Back to the Future, which I just recently watched again. And I think it's influenced some of my future work that's hopefully coming.
Oh my gosh. I have to say my favorite movie is probably Ant-Man.
Ooh, huh.
Yeah. I mean,
that was a good one.
Yeah.
I watched that with my family.
And I mean, this is really silly, but Home Alone.
I love that too.
I know it's hilarious when the spider's like on his face.
It's super heartwarming. Yeah.
Yeah. Favorite ice cream flavor?
Ooh, that's a hard one. Because I love so many varieties, but I've had like lavender olive oil or balsamic vinegar. And like those combinations are just super fun.
Salt and straw?
Possibly. But I feel like I think it was Scoop here in the LA area. My college roommate, Judy, brought me.
I have to say my favorite ice cream flavor is Thai tea ice cream with boba.
Oh, right. I've seen that one.
It's so good. So I have to say it's my favorite ice cream. Is cereal a soup?
I think that is such an interesting question. I've never thought of it that way before, but it could be.
I don't think it's a soup because the milk is optional. Soup,
true.
The liquid is mandatory.
But I like the concept of stretching, like what we understand the word to mean. So thank you for the question.
Of course. Let's go in the same vein. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Ooh. I think I would say no.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
Could Jack have fit on that door in Titanic?
Yes, I know, right? Why did he have to die?
I know. It's like, Jack.
I do have to say something about that door, though. Apparently, because of my critique partner, I mentioned Stacey Lee wrote Luck of the Titanic, which is about the 8 Chinese who were on the Titanic.
Oh, yeah.
And that door scene was actually the Chinese people that was taken for the movie for this like last scene.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Fun fact.
Okay, noted. What's your favorite pizza topping?
Mushrooms.
Mushrooms. Oh yeah, I love mushrooms.
Besides the cheese and sauce, of course.
Yes, obviously. I mean, what is pizza without cheese and sauce?
Yep.
I feel like if I say pineapple, I'm gonna get canceled.
No, I love pineapple too on pizzas.
Me too.
Hawaiian.
What's your guilty pleasure dance song?
I have one actually. It's The Greatest Showman.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, like anything from Greatest Showman.
I have to say, my guilty pleasure dance song, it's called Hot to Go by Chapel Roan.
Ooh, I haven't heard it yet.
H-O-T-T-O.
Oh, that's like the new YMCA.
Yeah, I guess. But other than Hot to Go, I do have to say Bohemian Rhapsody.
Ooh, love that
Bohemian
one.
Rhapsody. Which superpower would you choose, flight or invisibility?
Oh, I've had this before, and I don't actually remember what my prior answers were. I think invisibility. I probably said flying in the past, but there's so much you can do if you're invisible.
I know, because you can eavesdrop.
Yeah, totally.
But then again, like flying is just so cool. I had a dream where I felt what it was to fly. It was like I was flying in the dream. It was so strange, but it was also like, I want to experience that again.
Yeah, it would be really fun. I actually often dream of flying, but I can never fly very high.
Me too.
Yeah, and then like someone's always chasing me, so they just grab my legs. They just like pull me out of the air.
Yeah. I've only had this dream like twice, but someone's always chasing me.
Right.
Which author, living or dead, would you want to have boba with the most?
Oh gosh, I would probably just say my critique partners again. Yeah, and I'm fortunate that you get to see them when they come to town or if we're doing book events together.
Last question for the lightning round. If you could give one piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be?
You'll get there. So I think, I mentioned growing up in Ohio. It's like, it was lonely. And I was very different than my peers. I did have some friends, which I'm grateful for. There were some really low moments there. And I think I would go back to that child and feel like, it's going to actually be okay.
That's so sweet. Oh, okay. So before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you if there's any particular cause or organization near and dear to your heart. As you know, Stories That Borders is like very big on stories and service and using that to positively impact the world. So Stories That Borders would love to amplify anything that you care about.
Thank you. Yeah. So Little Lights Ministry, Little Lights Urban Ministry is a ministry in Washington, D.C. It's like in the city that was started by a Korean American couple, Steve and Mary Park.
Wow.
So my husband and I actually met each other like volunteering there.
Awesome.
And like they work with the youth in the neighborhood. And like I just saw them a couple months ago, and they actually have grown up with these kids for years. And one of them actually they found who had graduated from high school, but was just kind of hanging out and wasn't doing anything. So they actually helped him apply to college, and he got into college. And so I just love the labor of love that they're doing. Like just walking alongside these kids for years and years. And they've really expanded to where they're taking on properties around DC and converting them and making them like healthy, safe places for communities to gather.
That's amazing.
So yeah, Little Lights Urban Ministry.
It's awesome. Thank you so much for coming on to this podcast. It means so much to me. It's such an honor to have you. Just before you go, can you tell our listeners like if there's anything they can do to support your work or anything that you love?
Yeah, thank you. So for any book launch, the key is actually the pre-orders, which actually are quite hard to do. Like you have to call the bookstore and like put the order in, and it's actually best to pre-order at our local independent bookstores and Barnes & Noble to support them.
Don't pre-order off of Amazon, guys.
Yeah, Amazon is easy, but like, yes, pre-order at the local store. So for the Vale, I think that's the request, like to support that one. And then for the other books, helping to spread word. And one of the ways you can do that is, word of mouth, but also rating on Amazon and Goodreads.
Oh yeah.
Goes a long way, but for some reason my readership doesn't tend to rate there. So I get a lot of DMs and I'm always like, can you please rate? But yeah, so I think rating, if you get over a certain number, then the algorithms help to push the book even more widely.
Awesome.
So that's super helpful.
We will be sure to rate.
Thank you.
Everybody do what Abigail said because she's an amazing author that deserves to have her work out there. Thank you again so much for coming. It's been such a pleasure to have you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And again, thank you for the wonderful, thoughtful questions.
Thanks for listening to Stories Without Borders, the podcast. Please rate and review the show on your favorite podcast platform. You can learn more online at storieswithoutborders.org or follow us on Instagram at stories_without-borders. And if you like watching your podcasts, subscribe to our YouTube channel at stories_without-borders. Stories Without Borders, the podcast is written, hosted, and produced by me, Holland Alpert. I also wrote and performed the theme music. Danuta Amato is our sound engineer, audio editor, and videographer. Kennedy Hibbert is our video editor. Thanks to Liberty Yanaga and Langston Williams for production support. See you all next time!